Okay, for the first 4 bars of the head, notice I have no open strings. I have all fretted notes. This is to help me control the articulation and the note length a little better. Sounds like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. A couple things you want to look at. Those rooftop accents are short. Dot, dot. And then you have the regular accents are just pressed a little bit. I'll notice the going into the 3rd bar had some hammer on right there, and also a pull off. It kind of helps fit the articulation. So short, and I'll also kind of cut that upbeat on the 3rd measure on the end of 4 kind of short too. So going into the 3rd measure, 3, 4. The trick here is to get it sounding really tight with the rhythm and the articulation, and play it really smooth like a saxophone player or something like that. Okay, the next 4 bars of the head kind of start with some repetitions. We have the first bar again that we just had, but then it changes. So notice going into the 3rd bar, right there, I want to make that slide. Even though I'm sliding into a accent, I can't really pick it harder. That rooftop accent is more about the shortness of it. So you want to play that, and you want to lift that finger off of that note to make it short when you get to that A flat. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, on the third 4 bars, I went ahead and shifted down to the first position, and I played over that F chord, because that first measure is really played over an F chord, so you can see how easily this shape would resemble kind of the F chord you would learn when you're a beginner. Kind of sounds like an F chord too. And then to get that next measure, I slide into it with my 3rd finger. So then I have my 4th finger left to get the B flat. The 2nd, 1st, then 4th finger. Here's Here's the whole example. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, for the rest of this, one thing you can do is you can comp strum these chords like Freddie Green, or Freddie Green was the guitar player for Count Basie Band, and he had this strumming pattern where he strummed quarter notes. And one thing about this quarter note strum is you want to have the triplet subdivision kind of built into the feel of it. So what I do is I lift my left hand off the last triplet of every beat. So if you're thinking of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or triplet, triplet, you'll lift the left hand fingers on the let. So it sounds like. It gives it a nice kind of groove. So let's look at some of these chords that we have to learn. Look at the first bar. You have this B flat 7 chord. I play that with my first finger on the low string, second finger, then the fourth finger. Also notice I have the A string muted with my first finger so it doesn't ring. That's very important. Practice just playing that chord in a quarter note and lifting on that third triplet. Practice with a metronome or a drum machine to get it really tight. That next chord, the first beat in the second measure, is a C minor 7. I play with my second finger on the root, third finger on that 7, and then on that G string my pinky is there. Get that chord down. Then the next chord I have a F7, and that's played with the second finger on the bottom, the first finger on the 7th fret, and then the G string, that E flat, is played with my third finger. So take this time and play the first 2 measures, coordinate them together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're back to B flat. Then you change to E flat right there in the 4th bar. Notice the E flat chord is made, the E flat 7 chord is made just like the F7 chord, up, 2 frets from that E flat is. But now we're on the 6th fret, and I finger it just like I did the F7. So you get the E flat 7 for 2 bars, and then you're back to the B flat 7, and back to the F7, E flat 7. They have a turnaround here. So you have the B flat 7, then you have this chord up here, which is it's a G7 sharp 9 chord, and look, it looks just like that F7, but on the 10th fret, right? Because now we're on a G, and that high note with the pinky is that sharp 9 of that chord, and that resolves to C minor 7, which we've had, and then F. So one thing you want to do is you want to practice with a metronome. I've got one here on my phone. If you don't have a metronome, get one. If you've got a phone, just download one. Now, you want to get it at a good tempo. You don't start too fast. Maybe I'm going to put mine at 104 right now. What you want to really do is bury the metronome. You want to lock right in to the click. To start off, I would not actually play the left hand. I would just start the right hand. Try to get it to line right up. And then add one chord and try to get it to lift properly with the left hand on that last subdivision. I'll try a couple measures like that. And work very carefully like this with a metronome. There's nothing worse than a rhythm guitar player who can't keep time. The only reason you're any good in this kind of situation using these chord strums is because you're accenting the time-keeping element of the rhythm section, particularly in the drum set and the bass pinging along. You're just really helping to drive that quarter note. You give harmony to the quarter note essentially. So turn on the metronome and keep the beat really well until you can just bury the metronome and you can't tell the difference between your strum and the metronome. Okay, in this bridge section what we have is the same kind of chords, but there's a couple new ones we'll look at. Let's see, where is that? The second to last bar and the last bar. The second to last bar you have this C7, which is just like the B flat 7, 2 frets below it, but it's up, you know, a whole step, or 2 frets. And then you have this F7 sharp 9 at the end, which turns it around. I noticed it was just like the other 7 sharp 9 chord that we learned. So I'm going to turn the metronome back on here. I'm going to play right with it and bury it. And listen to how my rhythm pattern really sinks into the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice there were no open notes ringing out and other extraneous noises, and the notes went down evenly. This takes a lot of time. It's one thing to be able to play really fast and technical on the guitar, but it's just as difficult to get a good solid strum and have it be very clean and in time. Okay, the last 12 bars, it's just more of the same. I'm going to play it with the metronome again, and but before I do it, look at the second to last bar. That chord you see in your chart that's like a B flat sus9 chord or something like that. All that is just an E flat chord with a B flat in the bass. Don't let it confuse you. So like the last 2 bars sounds like notice I've played a little more of the B flat chord and filled it out for the last note to kind of help give it some sustain and some length. You'll want to do that on like the last chords of songs, or maybe on some longer cadences to where the phrase ends and you want to have a nice long sound to help taper it out. Here it is with the metronome. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now there's another way to comp all these chords. One thing you can do is use 4-note voicings of these chords, because they're all 4 notes. I like to use these drop 2 voicings and ones that are kind of like that. If you don't know what a drop 2 chord is, you can Google it and look it up, and it's a really good lesson to learn. But this first chord, this B flat 7, I make like this. And what you can do is you can drop your pick and use all 4 of your fingers to play it. So I would use like my thumb, first finger, second finger, and third finger, low to high. So my thumb would be on the lowest note, first finger on the next one, middle finger. And you want to pluck them so they all pluck right together with a very small motion. You want each one of the notes to have good balance. You can hear each voice. So that's how I'd make a B flat chord. And likewise, I could move that shape up 2 frets and get a C7 chord. That'd be a good thing to have. And then I could also make a C minor 7 by lowering the third of that chord. I could also make a C minor 7 with a shape like this. Okay, as far as a E flat 7, here's a good voicing for that. F7 would be the same thing, up 2 frets. F minor 7, you could have that shape but lower the third to the minor third. Then you have this F7 sharp 9. What I like to do on these 7 sharp 9 chords, especially this one, So add the sharp 5. It kind of jazzes it up a little bit. And I don't play the root. Notice I've got it as a ghost note. So this chord actually ends up looking more like a B13 chord. And then the G7 sharp 9 you could play up here as a sharp 5, just like you did the F7 sharp 9 up 2 frets, or you could go down here and play it like that. So, you know, if you're comping the blues with these chords, you get a sound like this, and you want to kind of vary the rhythm, but keep the 8th note the main entrance, so like always count off 1 to 2 to 3, something like this. You know, those kinds of rhythms, you want to use those. The turnarounds, you do stuff like, you know, and it makes it sound a little more hip, I think, to play them as block chords, because your voice leading has to be a bit better. Your timing has to be a bit more varied, but just as tight. You have to get down this aspect of playing 4 notes at once right together, kind of like a keyboard would play them really cleanly. Okay, use the following track to kind of perfect the lines and techniques of this etude. Try copying the chords with the strum, and once you can strum the chords, a la Freddie Green-style, try to comp them with the, you know, the 4-note block chords with your thumb and 3 fingers. Go for it.